Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. So there were four big movies that were released last weekend, the biggest of which is Terminator Dark Fate, and then there's Motherless Brooklyn and the animation Arctic Dogs, and Harriet, a biopic about Harriet Tubman. Let's see how those movies did at the box office. Alright, let's jump right in. So coming in at number one is Terminator Dark Fate. This is, I believe, the sixth Terminator movie. But the thing about this movie is, that's differentiate itself from the previous couple is that this one is produced by James Cameron, so he had some ideas which got thrown in here. The other ones like Genesis or Terminator Salvation, even Terminator 3, I believe he wasn't involved, or he doesn't have a credit to his name except that it's by him. So Terminator Dark Fate, this is a movie that I say could probably open to 50 to 55 million, because I felt that this is a movie that was anticipated because hey, there's Linda Hamilton in this movie, one of the OG characters. Arnold Schwarzenegger is in here. James Cameron has a producing role. I mean, he threw some ideas in the script, and and I thought, hey, it's a reunion of the three major people in this franchise, and people should feel good about it, right? Except that I was pretty wrong on this one. So this movie opened to 29 million, so way less than my 50 to 55 million. So this 29 million opening, it's not a good opening by any stretch of the imagination, because the budget for this movie is 185 million and change, right? I mean, there's print and advertising involved as well. And let's see how this movie did overseas. Let's see. So overseas, they put in about 94 million for a worldwide total of 123 million. So 94 million, it's good overseas, but it's bombing domestically, and it's going to need a lot of help from the overseas market. It doesn't seem like the Terminator Dark Fate it's gonna latch on here, which is surprising because the reviews are good, 70% on the tomato meter, but a B+ cinema score, so the audience who saw it probably didn't thought it was an okay movie. But I think in the grand scheme of things, the people were disappointed that this movie is kind of like a retread of of Terminator 2, for example, and that's how things are going right now. They're doing these reboots / sequels, pretty much telling the same story with new characters, and then they tie in with some older characters as well. And this is the direction that I think James Cameron wants it to go into. I mean, remember, after 2019, the Terminator franchise reversed back to James Cameron, so he could do whatever he wants with it now, before he signed it over. And in his wisdom, he set a deadline that the rights reverse back to him after a certain date. It's not like, oh, I'm gonna the studio just need to crank out these movies, and they kept the rights perpetually, in perpetuity, right? But this one, he set a date. Hey, 2019, Terminator is mine, back to me. And that's the good thing. So whether or not he will do anything with it in the future is anyone's guess, because he has the Avatar movies going on, and he has a lot of movies on his plate, movies that he wants to do. And then of course he could go deep sea diving again for years, and he's concentrating all his energy right now on the Avatar sequels. And like I say, he could only do so much, right? And the thing with the Terminator movies is it involves time traveling, and when time traveling is involved, things get dicey as you do more movies, because it gets repetitive. I mean, anything that's done in one movie could be undone again by traveling back in time. And then they introduced the multiverse in Genesis, which is I think kind of stupid, right? Because it makes everything that happened meaningless, right? I mean, you could, oh yeah, this, we can go down this road, but then again, it doesn't matter because in another universe, or another multiverse, this happened. Like I say, it's one of these sequels when they say that sequel dilute or lessen what happened in the previous movie. Terminator is a franchise that the plot holes gets bigger and bigger as more movies comes along, because like I say, time traveling is involved and they could really undo things, which is a blessing and a curse depending on how you treat it, really. But the sixth movie, there you go, 29 million, which is a very telling sign that a audience might not be up for more Terminator movies, or this the storyline is not that interesting anymore, because Arnold Schwarzenegger is far from his peak, very far. Linda Hamilton, haven't seen her in a while. She's getting up there in age, and they introduced some younger characters in here. Hopefully they could take over the franchise, maybe, right? But with the 29 million opening here, seems unlikely that they may decide to throw everything that happened in Dark Fate away and start over should another Terminator movie happen. So let's keep an eye on Terminator Dark Fate, how it does overseas, if the box office there could save this franchise. Alright, number 2 is Joker. In its 5th weekend, it pulled in about 13.9 million. Drop off is about 28% from the previous weekend. It crossed the 300 million mark domestically, in North America at least. And overseas, it pulled in 634 million for a worldwide total of 934 million. So it looks like it's going to reach the billion mark. And I believe it's not going to open in China. Let's take a look. Yeah, so there's no box office data for China, so it might not open there. So it's actually pretty impressive for a movie that cost 55 million. Like I said previously, Warner Brother doesn't have high hopes for this movie. They only gave them this movie a 55 million budget, and it's going to make probably $1 billion at the box office without China. Alright, number 3 is Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. It pulled in about 12.2 million. In its 3rd weekend, drop off is about 37% from the previous week. Domestic gross is 84 million thus far, and let's see how it did overseas. Overseas, it pulled in 298 million or 299 million for a worldwide total of 383 million. Let's see, the budget for this movie is kind of high, 185 million as well. Cost about the same as Terminator Dark Fate. Lots of special effects and all, and the salaries of Angelina Jolie, Michelle Pfeiffer, and others, right? But mostly the special effects. So yeah, I mean, this I guess people are not that enthused about a sequel, a Maleficent sequel. The first one did really well, so that's why they made the second one. The second one opened to like half of what the first one opened to. So with this box office performance, I'll be surprised if we see a Maleficent 3. I mean, since at least to here, people are saying that one Maleficent movie is enough, or maybe that they are looking for a different type of sequel. Overseas, there's a possibility it could make do huge numbers overseas, but we have to see how well it does in China. I think it pulled in about 40 some million in China thus far. Let's see how much it can go. Alright, number 4 is the surprise of the week of the new releases, at least to me. It's Harriet. It pulled in 12 million in its opening weekend. So this is a movie that stars Cynthia Erivo as the title character. She was in Widows, I believe, one of these thrillers back then. That was released a couple months ago. This pretty well reviewed, surprisingly, 72% on the tomato meter and A+ cinema score. This is a movie that could probably open to 3 million, but it did way better than this, 12 million, pulling into 12 million is actually a pretty good opening for a movie that I don't have any hopes for. But let's see how well it will hold up in the second weekend. Alright, number 5 is the Addams Family, the animated version. In its 4th weekend, it pulled in about 8.5 million. Domestic gross is about 85 million so far. And let's see how it did overseas. Overseas, it pulled in 44 million for a worldwide total of 129 million, which is actually pretty good, right? I think this movie only costs about How much did it cost? Yeah, I think the Addams Family cost about maybe 70 to 80 million. This is this is not one of these state of the art animations by Pixar, etc. I didn't expect this movie to open that well. The animated version of the Addams Family, I didn't have a lot of high hopes for, if you listen to my previous videos, but it actually opened pretty well. I thought this movie could probably open to 15 to 20 million, based on the previous two live action movies. Which did okay, but it didn't did like a big box office, but it opened to 30.3 million, and reviews weren't great, right? But like I say, once you animated something, all bets are off. It becomes a children film, and you never know what catch the fancy of children. All right, number 6 is the Zombieland sequel, Double Tap. They put in about 7.4 million in its third weekend. This is a sequel to the 2009 movie, which stars the same people: Woody Harrelson, Emma Stone, Jesse Eisenberg, Abigail Breslin, Zoe Dutch, etc. The director returns, the writer returns. Like I said, this is a reunion movie, and I said this movie could probably open to 20 to 25 million, but it opened, it's about right there at the upper end, 26.7 million, and this continues to go on. And domestic gross right now is about 60 million, and let's see how it did overseas. Overseas, it pulled in about 28 million for a worldwide total of 87 million, and the budget for this movie is about 42 million, so it's actually doing decent. All right, number 7 is the horror movie Countdown, which features obviously teens. There's an app, people install the app, and it tells how much time that person has left in this world, and once it reaches 0, the ghosts come and pretty much kill them. So it's one of these movies. So in its second weekend, it pulled in about 5.9 million. Domestic gross is about 18 million thus far, and let's see. Overseas, it pulled in about 3.7 million for a worldwide total of 21 million. And I guess for a horror movie, it's actually doing decent. I guess I don't see Countdown costing a lot of money. Is probably about somewhere in the 5 million range or so. All right, number 8 is Black and Blue, which is kind of the police thriller starring Naomi Harris, I believe. She stars as a rookie cop who witnessed the murder by fellow cop members, and she's on the run from them and the local gangs. In the second weekend, it dropped about 52% to pull in about 4 million. Domestic gross is about 15.5 million so far, and this is a movie, these type of movies usually open around, it ranges, but I said this movie could probably open to somewhere 8 to 10 million, but it opened at the lower end of that, about 8.3 million. So this movie is performing as expected, because Naomi Harris is not that huge of a draw yet. So Black and Blue is performing as expected. All right, number 9 is the other new releases last weekend. Motherless Brooklyn. Miss Wren is directed and starring Edward Norton, and this is a movie, one of his passion projects. It opened to 3.7 million. This is a movie I say could probably open in the 3 million-ish range or so, and that's what it did. It has a lot of stars in this movie. There's Bruce Willis, William Dafoe, Alec Baldwin, Leslie Mann, and others. And there's a funny quote about by Norton about this movie, that if you saw him in Die Hard 8, that means that he's paying for Motherless Brooklyn. The budget for Motherless Brooklyn is 26 million, and with the 3 million opening, it's very possible that we could see Edward Norton in Die Hard 8. All right, let's close out the top 10 with the other wide releases last weekend, and that is the animation Arctic Dogs. This movie is poorly reviewed at 17% on the tomato meter, a B- cinema score, and it features the voices of James Franco, Angelica Houston, Jeremy Renner, Alec Baldwin, John Cleese. Renner voiced the main character who wants to become the top dog, the top delivery dog in this delivery company, and it's made by a Canadian studio, and it seems like the distributor of this movie here, generically named Entertainment Studios, bought the rights for here and released it without any fanfare, I think. And I said it could probably open to 10 to 15 million because, hey, like I said, animation, has an appeal for children, right? But I think it's poor performance is just the lack of advertisement, because like I say, even if you put in some effort in this, I could probably pull in 10 to 15 million, but actually pulled in about 3.1 million in this opening weekend. So it's not going to go up from there, it's going to go down. So yeah, despite the voice talent involved, it looks like it's going to be a blip at the box office, and it's probably going to drop out of the top 10 next week. Alright, that's it for the box office top 10. Let's move on to the new releases this weekend. We're gonna have, I believe, 4. The sequel to The Shining, titled Doctor Sleep. And then there is the holiday love story, Last Christmas. And Playing with Fire. And the war movie Midway. Alright, let's start off with Doctor Sleep. This Doctor Sleep is based on Stephen King's novel of the same name, which is a sequel to The Shining, which was turned into a movie by Stanley Kubrick way back when, right? This one is written and directed by Mike Flanagan, who did Ouija, Origin of Evil back in 2016. He has some horror movies under his belt. Doctor Sleep stars Ewan McGregor as the grown-up Danny Torrance, who escaped with her, with his mom from his father, at that hotel, right? And joining him in this movie is Rebecca Ferguson. She plays the big, the bad person in this movie, as well as Kylie Curran, which is like the teen star, co-star in this movie. So right now, Doctor Sleep has a 73% on Rotten Tomatoes, so reviews are good. But, who is asking for a sequel to The Shining, which happened so long ago? And McGregor, he anchored the movie. But again, this is sort of a horror movie. It's a sequel to The Shining. And are people asking for a sequel to The Shining? I feel that this Veteran Days weekend I think it's going to be a week. It's going to be weak. Alright, given that, right? So I think Doctor Sleep could probably, it is a horror movie, right? So it is a horror movie. There is some name recognition here with Stephen King, The Shining, even McGregor. But, other than that, if you look at the trailer, it seems unremarkable. And it seems like it's the story is, it depends on The Shining to fill in the backstory. If you don't catch up on The Shining, you might be out of the loop on what's going on here. So I see Doctor Sleep having an opening somewhere in the 10 to 15 million range, 3 days. I'm going 3 days this week. Up next is Last Christmas, stars Emilia Clarke and Henry Golding, and it's directed by Paul Feig. Michelle Yeoh's in here, as well as Emma Thompson. This could be, Last Christmas could be a surprise hit because it stars Emilia Clarke. She's very charming here. She's fresh off, Game of Thrones. Henry Golding, just good-looking guy. And I guess, fresh off his, recent hit, Crazy Rich Asians. Like I said, it's a heartwarming story with potentially a twist at the end, because since this is titled Last Christmas, right? Counter programming to what's going on in theaters. So I expect an opening somewhere in the 15 million range for Last Christmas. Alright, Playing with Fire stars John Cena, Keegan-Michael Kay, John Leguizamo, and Tyler Mane, among others. So, Cena, it's a comedy. It's one of these babysitting comedies. Cena and others, are firefighters, and they have to babysit, children of various ages, right? And Vin Diesel did one way back when, which did pretty well. It opened to 30 million, went on to make gross 113 million, domestically, and 198 million worldwide. You can go way back to Hulk Hogan. Hogan did a movie. The name escaped me at this moment, but the wrestler Hulk Hogan also did a similar comedy where he's looking after kids. It's a children's movie, it's a family movie. Probably gonna have an opening somewhere in the 15 million range as well. Alright, finally we get to Midway. It's directed by Roland Emmerich. Has a 60 million budget. It's a war movie about Pearl Harbor. Stars Ed Skrein, Mandy Moore, Nick Jonas, Woody Harrelson, Luke Evans, and others. This movie is. Here's the thing. Is anyone clamoring for a World War II movie? Or Pearl Harbor, right? I mean, it seems like there's a slot open on Veterans Day, and Roland Emmerich just want to capture his previous glory, as an action producer now turned director. There was Pearl Harbor, directed by Michael Bay way back when, right? It opened to 59 million. Went on to make 198 million domestically and 450 million worldwide. But that was, Michael Bay. His name alone could sell a lot of tickets. Roland Emmerich, probably not. I mean, his last movie was, directed. He directed Independence Day Resurgence. It opened to 41 million, went on to make 103 million domestically and 303 million worldwide. I forgot what the budget for the movie is, but it's probably expensive, and it probably lost money at the box office. And Midway has way less recognition because this is a kind of like a generic war movie about attack on Pearl Harbor and then the battle that takes place on at Midway Island with the Japanese. And like I said, I don't think anyone is clamoring for a war movie right now, except for Roland Emmerich. And so again, I don't expect this movie to open that high. Again, another 15 million opener, plus or minus, is going to be around there. All these movies, all four movies, I think, is probably going to open somewhere in the 15 million-ish range. Some lower, some higher, but, around there. All right, that's it for this week's podcast. Tune in next week to see how I did. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.